Hello, I'm Logan Loya,
And I'm Zack Finlayson.
And I'm Ayden Williams.
and you're listening to Terror Talk. So today, we've been talking about horror movies every episode. I mean, we've delved into games, but this episode we're gonna focus on horror games. Like, one of my favorite horror games are The Quarry, which is like a choose-your-own-adventure game, and like it's like a summer camp, but instead of like, you know how it's usually slashers in a summer camp, it's like werewolves and sometimes there's ghosts, and it's a really good game with some pretty good actors in it.
That's interesting. I like how popular horror games have become. I think it's bringing horror itself to a broader audience, and I think it's way easier to break the tropes in a horror game than it is to do in a horror movie, because when you're making a movie, you expect it's like a bureaucracy. You have to make sure that you will have a return on your investment.
Mm.
With games, really anybody can make a game, and I think it brings horror to so many more audiences.
And there's so much more you can do in games than you can in movies.
Absolutely. You don't have to do that thing where you're like, you're so stupid. Why would you do that? That's actually so stupid.
Because if you do that stupid thing, it's you doing
Yeah.
it.
One genre I've really liked for horror games that have come out recently, like a lot of them have come out, is like LiDAR horror games.
Mm-hmm.
I find those really interesting.
Ones I like most are those choose-your-own-adventure games, like Until Dawn, The Quarry, or like the Dark Pictures Anthology, which has a new one coming out soon, and I'm really excited.
Interesting. What about you, Ayden?
Well, horror games have really brought a big aspect to many fields of video games, and like you said with the movies, how they're different aspects, it can draw in a bigger crowd as you can create your own story as you play the horror games. But in the horror movies, you have to sit there and watch and just think about what you could have done. But in those games, you can actually do what you want to do, just like Until Dawn or The Quarry.
Exactly. And so I feel like horror games, especially like games for younger audience, like when it first came out, like Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm pretty sure it was for like younger kids, but it gets like younger children into the horror genre. So as they grow up, they can go more into like the deeper or like darker things or more scary like, horror movies or games.
I can attest that. I have a little sister, and yeah, do you know Poppy's Playground?
Oh, yep.
Yeah. That got her deeply into horror just because she I think she saw it on YouTube, like some really bad video, and that got her into Poppy Playtime. Now she has toys at Poppy's Playtime. Like,
There's toys?
yeah, there's a lot of toys actually.
Oh my god.
But yeah, there is such a big market for horror games, especially like you can reach a lot more audiences because say you want to make a children's horror game, you can do that, but like a children's horror movie, that's never gonna come out.
No, or when they try, it's never good.
Because you have to bring in like the comedy, and then you have to also bring in just like the child things. Like what actors want to do that? What actors are going to actually try to perform that part?
And also, it's really hard to make a horror script that's child appropriate.
Yeah.
And continue.
Oh, and also like one thing I think it's so good about horror games is that they're basically, if you want to do it, you can do it on a zero budget. There's a lot of free software to make horror games. You have Blender and you have the Unity, which I think is free under a certain amount that you make. But that makes it so much more accessible for anybody to make those games. But like blockbuster horror movies, those aren't going to be available to the vast majority of people. It's almost impossible to do a zero budget horror movie. Some have, like Benny's.
Benny Loves You.
Yeah, that was pretty close to a zero budget, but
yeah, it was so low budget, but it was such a good movie. And then like another way, like Roblox or Fortnite, how like you can make your own games. They've made like genuinely good horror games. Like I've played some actually kind of scary horror games on like Fortnite or Roblox. Like I know like a really popular one that I didn't really care for, but it got super popular was Doors on Roblox.
I've played that.
Yeah.
Uh,
But like some other horror games, like you have like Resident Evil, which is probably the most popular horror series of video games, and like another one that comes to mind are like The Last of Us. That The Last of
Yeah.
Us is such a good game, and like sometimes video game like adaptations, especially with horror, they don't bode well into movies. Like the Resident Evil film series is horrible, but then you have like the Last of Us TV show, which is
It
phenomenal.
is amazing.
It is great, and it holds well to the games, so good. Like, I mean, they've changed a few things, obviously, but they did it in a way that it feels fresh and it's still good, and you can still tell that it's The Last of Us.
Yeah, and it's a kind of a thing where I played both the games I haven't played both of the games. I've played both the game and watched the series. And I would say it's something that doesn't have to be like exclusive. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. You can play both and it's still such a good series and they did it so well that you're still going to be having surprises and twists and there's things that you're not going to be expecting. But also, you get the story. Like, it's
Yeah.
enough of the story to understand the world. And I think they do such good world building in the show. But that's just me gushing about how much I love the show.
That's because the show is super
So,
good.
So good.
I'm so excited for season 2, which comes out in April, I think.
Oh, I'm going to be there.
Oh yeah.
But going back to the topic about the movies and the horror game, I know some people may not think it's really like big horror game, but The Walking Dead, the games and the movies,
Mm-hmm.
they I believe the games came after the movie, and they really just developed a different story in the games than what was in the
Yeah.
movies.
Like, you sorry to interrupt,
No, you're
but
fine.
like you have like Saints and Sinners,
Mhm.
which is the VR game, which tells such a different story, but it's still really good. But it's within the Walking Dead series, which the Walking Dead started as a comic, and then was turned into a TV show, and then they've had video games adaptations of the Walking Dead, and the show is definitely like one of the biggest like horror TV shows, and so of course you're gonna have like video games and like I think they have like 5 spin-off shows
Yeah.
of The Walking Dead. It's wild. There's so much Walking Dead.
I think I've played through the Saints and Sinners like 2 or 3 times.
Mm.
Actually, such a great game. And that's one thing where it is genuinely terrifying at some parts. Like, VR has had such a big horror presence recently.
I feel like horror was made, or not horror, VR was made for horror.
It's
Because that's
amazing.
such a great combination.
It really is.
Because it makes you like feel like you're set in that time and
Yeah,
place,
it
and
puts
like,
you-
You don't have that availability for a third person's perspective. You only have that from the view of the goggles, and you can't. It's just really. I'm trying to find a word to put it in perspective, but it can really get you caught off guard whenever you
Yeah.
least know it in those horror games playing VR.
Yeah, VR horror games are some of my favorite games I've ever played. Like, a really good one was the the Paranormal Investigation VR game. That one was really good. I know there's like, I know Dark Pictures has a VR game. I haven't played it yet, but it looks really good. But like horror, a game that I think would be perfect for horror would be Outlast. If Outlast came out with a VR horror game, that would be it would be terrifying, but it would be so good.
Another horror game that it does have VR availability, but it's probably my favorite horror game. It's Subnautica.
Mm-hmm.
That game is actually terrifying. Like, in case you don't know, you're going into the depths of the ocean in an alien planet, and just imagine that you're swimming, right? You're mining for minerals or whatever, and then you hear Like a little gurgle from the water, pitch black water. You don't know what's back there, and then you see a faint glow that's getting bigger and bigger, and then there's something that's 500 times the size of you about to eat you. Like, that's actually so scary.
That is genuinely terrible. Like, I don't get scared easily. I mean, horror games, or like with movies, but horror games do scare me a lot more. That's because you're like actually playing through it. But one horror game that is like one of the hardest games to play because it scares me so much is Outlast. Because it's such, like, the night vision camera, that's, like, sometimes you need that camera to see and, like, play the game. And, like, how they give you a limited amount of batteries. So, like, if you're in just a horrible part of the game where you need night vision and you have no batteries in the camera, you just have to sit there in the dark and cry. That's all you can do.
Horror movies make such good use of limited resources. Like, they very much are like, okay, you can kill this enemy, but then you can't kill whatever other enemy you see. Like, you have, like, one bullet. That's it. Like, I know Resident Evil was really big into limited resources. Obviously, Outlast is. The Last of Us is a very resource, like, conservative game. Like, when you're fending off a horde of zombies and there's, like, one of them's, like, there's, like, a special kind of zombie called a bloater, which is really hard to kill. And then there's, like, 2 bloaters and a horde, and there's a bunch of clickers, which is another type of zombie. And, like, they're all coming at you, and all you have is, like
20 bullets to your name.
20 bullets in my really bad revolver, and 2 shotgun shells. Like, that's actually really scary.
Yeah.
Be smart.
Like, I love playing Resident Evil because, like, if you're in a big boss battle and you have, like, very limited ammo. I mean, usually they do their best to, like, put as much ammo around you. But if you're stuck in, like there's this one part of the game, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3. I think it's 3. But it's in the remake where, like, you have to use this crane, but there's, like, the big, like, bad it's probably Nemesis if it was in 3. But, like, he's chasing you and you have to drop the crane on him, but if he gets to you and you have no bullets, you're just kind of stuck in an endless loop of dying.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, because in games like that, it's just so... You feel so powerless. It really is really, really good at making you feel powerless and helpless, and you're like, that's just it. I'm just dead. There's nothing I can do.
Some other really good horror games that, like, are the ones where you can't fight back. The ones where you have to run. You have no weapon. Again, like Outlast. But, like, you have no weapons. All you have is a camera, and you have to run away from these giant... Or, I mean, not, like... I mean, there's one big guy that chases you. But these just insane people... You have to run away from them because you can't fight them.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Those types of games always make me mad, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Because I'll be like, I can't do anything to you, bro. This is not fair. Like, this is actually, you're hacking, dude. Get out of here.
I mean, that's the biggest thing in horror, is that it's not supposed to be fair.
I know. I just get mad because, like, I'm come from Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I can speak the same there, coming from Call of Duty into a horror game, and, like, just having the no resources really just gets you up and going, because, like, you will be screaming at the TV, like, trying to make your character run faster.
Yeah.
Like, you can do something about it, but no, not really.
I know Call of Duty has, like, horror elements to it, especially, like, with zombies.
And their Halloween themed.
Yeah, I've seen, like, a bunch of, like, Halloween events where I remember one, I mean, I never played any of the Call of Duties, but I remember there was one game where during a Halloween event you could become Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Which that's a really cool, I guess, function in the game during Halloween.
I think the zombies that gave us all PTSD, well, the 2 zombie games, was Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and 2, especially the Fetch Me Their Souls part. That part probably has us all just not.
What? Or like when you reach a high round and you didn't realize that there was a boss on this map, but there is, and you're like, oh, what is that?
Or like
I've never seen you before.
Or whenever you're on the movie theater map and like you go switch it on the breaker and then those acid spitting zombies come out. Oh my god!
Oh,
Or
what are
like
they
you're playing
called?
alone.
But
Like,
yeah, no, the theater one, that one's actually, I think Nocturne Titan, I think.
I think
That's
so.
the name
Yeah.
of the map. Yeah, it's actually, that one's actually scary. But
and there's some really good like horror online games. Like, probably the biggest one is Dead by Daylight, which I love so much. I love I have a love-hate relationship with Dead by Daylight because it's a really good game and it has a really good story to it because Dead by Daylight has so much lore. And then like, but the main thing I hate about the game is it's not balanced. It's so killer-sided, but I still love it. And like even with the new game modes they've been coming out with, like 2v8 or like on April Fools last year, there was like one huge giant killer and all the survivors were like 2 inches tall. And like if you were in dead state, which would be, or if you were downed as a small one, the giant killer could just step on you and it's done. And like it's an impossible to win game if you're on the survivor side. But it was so funny to be like a little tiny guy running around while there's a giant like Godzilla-sized killer chasing you.
And if you've watched some of the recent Terror Talks, I'm sure you've heard me mention Killer Clowns from Outer Space. They came with a Killer Clowns from Outer Space game. Logan hates it. I love it. I love it.
I don't hate it. I think it could be better. I mean, again, it's another game. Well, actually, it's not really killer-sided or survivor-sided. It's pretty well balanced, but I don't like it because either side I'm on, the other side is always so much better than me.
My favorite thing, I like playing Survivor in that game, and I like getting just a piece of plywood and just hitting a clown over the head. That feels so good when I come out from the bushes. I'm like, clunk!
Yeah.
And then the clown's like, oh! And they
Yeah.
do like the stun state that they have.
It's cool because you can fight back in that game. Kind of like the game, an online horror game that I absolutely love because I love Evil Dead. But Evil Dead the game, in my opinion, was such a good game. And I was so excited because they like confirmed a bunch of like DLC characters, but then like within 2 to 3 months they already like stopped like
Sad.
all their work on it. Like all upcoming DLCs were canceled. I think they stopped updating it, which is also sad. It because all those games, Dead by Daylight is the superior to all of them. So they die off really quickly.
Like, I understand they have a bottom line. They have to worry about it, and you can't keep feeding into a game that's obviously not going to have any return. But, like, it was such a good game. It's actually so sad that it went out. It just felt good.
Yeah,
It had very snappy...
And it was so... It was a good depiction of the game, or of the movies, because, like, I mean, it had the comedy of, like, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, but it also had, like, this, like, horror parts. Like, if you're opening a box, the demon can, like, trap them. So, like, if you're opening a box and you get, like, a trap, it's kind of scary. So it still has the horror elements of, like, one, or, like the new one, Evil Dead Rise, which was Evil Dead Rise was so good. It was such a good sequel. But like, I mean, they even had a DLC for the Evil Dead remake. Like Evil Dead is one of those is like one of those franchises that even though it's remade, it can still continue off of their original story.
There's so many directions they can go with for it, because it is very good as a comedy.
Yeah.
The jokes always land. It's just, it's like silly in all the ways that matters, and it's like serious in all the ways that matter. And I think it's a really good branch out series, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Because continue.
sorry.
You're
Yeah, no, you continue.
Okay. So like you could have like Ash versus Evil Dead, which is a hilarious TV show. And then like but in the same series you have the Evil Dead remake and Evil Dead Rise, which were genuinely terrifying at some parts. Like the Evil Dead remake is a rare occasion where I like the remake more than the original because it's so much more scary than the original. And I think it tells the story a bit better. But I don't know. I love Evil Dead. It's such a good film series.
I know that you really like Until Dawn, Ayden. I want to go into that. What's good about that game?
Well, just how it catches people off guard a lot, and like just the really good storyline that they use, and how you can choose the different choices, and you can pick to keep a character, and it will affect you later on in the story. And it's just some of the graphics too are really nice, and it's also a really gory game. And the first time I played it, and the first like killing scene I got to, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And like they just recently like reworked it from the ground up and like made all the graphics so much better, which I would have liked for people who already owned the game for it to be a free update. Like sometimes they do that. I'm not dropping another $60 on Until Dawn.
But that game, I mean, especially the part where like it's just the two people in the house, and then all of a sudden she gets ripped out the door.
Oh yeah,
Like-
yeah. I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, I can't remember either of their names. But like, I know what scene you're talking about. Like, but the Wendigo, like how they use the monster in those games, is so well, and then how they like show the creation of a Wendigo with Josh, I think was his name, like the brother to the two sisters who die at the beginning.
Yeah.
Or die at the beginning, quote unquote. But like, because I don't want to spoil the game for people who've never played it.
Yeah, that's
But
true. There is.
there's such a good twist at the end. Actually, there's a bunch of different twists in that game.
All throughout the game. But like you said, don't spoil it. I mean, like,
Yeah.
that game that's one reason why it's one of my favorites. Just all the twists you can do, all the choices you can make, and it's all on you of how you end the game.
Yeah, like I know there's a movie coming out soon for Until Dawn, and like I know a lot of people are mad because it's nowhere close to the game, but it's an interesting new story. It's like they have to like survive the night, but every time they die, they face like a new creature. It's kind of like a time loop, but like every time they die and come back, it's a completely new monster, and it looks like such an interesting story, and I'm really excited to see it.
I'd probably be seeing that one too. I mean, if they can pinpoint some things like the very just catching people off guard like they did in the game into the movie, or like how they, like you said, adapted the story to show the formation of the creatures, that would also be really nice.
That
to
would
see
be
in the
really
movie.
cool.
You know, for movies as a whole, it's kind of interesting how recently we've had, like, so, okay, you go back to the 60s, right? There are so many video games that were based off of movies, and now we're kind of flipping that. There's a lot of movies and shows recently that are based off of video games.
Yeah, I mean, I know there was recently a Fallout TV show.
Yeah, I've heard it was
Yes.
really good.
I watched it. It was really
It
it was
really
really
is.
good. I haven't played any of the. I've started 4, but I haven't played much. But it looks like a genuinely good game, and the show was really good. And what I've heard is that it keeps to the games pretty well.
It really did. It really does too. I mean, like, I've played 4 all through all of it. I started on 76, and I mean, you'll get some of your like kind of horror action from that game too. From the you meet him at the city hall on the first mission, whenever you get your first set of power armor. And it's one of those creatures that comes from the sewer, and that's the main part that really catches you off guard, because you think you're done, you think you're finished, but no, that thing pops up from the sewers, and you're like, what the hell? And then I had to face off 2 of those before with nothing. Like you said, the resources game, that game is a really good resources game. You have to collect what you need, or else you ain't gonna have anything during the game. And it's just like all the Dead by Daylight. You pick your own story throughout the game because you get to choose what you want to do. You get to choose if you want to go this path or kill this person. So
yeah,
so
like.
Sorry. I was just gonna ask, so does it follow 4 more than any other game?
I'd say it follow. Well, I mean, they're different stories. Like in 4, you're a father trying to go get your son. In the movie, it's a girl trying to find her father because of a bunker raid that happened, and she was one of the people that survived it. And she left the bunker, and then she went out. She found a couple of people. And that dead cowboy.
What was his name? Like the Ghoul or something?
Yeah, the Ghoul. He plays a really main part in that story, as he is on a mission to try to revive himself. He actually was there whenever the fallout happened. He watched it. Like, I don't know when it shows it in the series, but it can show him looking out a window holding his daughter, and you see it hit the city. Oof. And it's like, whoa, that's how it happened.
So like, there's a lot of similarities between the games and the show.
I mean, they try to correlate it a lot. I mean, there is a bunch of things that you'll see from the game into the movie, like stim packs, Radaway. The power armors are like just spot on too, and they do also have a power core in them, like they did in the game. So I think that's some really good details that it shows from the game into the movie. And I mean, there's a couple of aspects where they could have done a bit better on it. There's
always that on like game adaptations.
In some cases, it's very awkward, very awkward. Now, I'm not gonna say any more about those parts, because if you want to watch it more, I think you can find that out for yourself and know what I'm talking about.
But like another your choice game is there's Dead by Daylight, which is the online killer versus survivor, but the same company, and it's underneath the Dead by Daylight world, but it's called The Casting of Frank Stone, and it's like Until Dawn in the Quarry, but it shows kind of the process of a killer being taken in, or killers and survivors being taken into the Dead by Daylight world, and it's just a really good game. I had a lot of fun with it. I think there's a couple of aspects of time travel that come out of nowhere, and I feel like that's where the games is at its weakest. But in the story, and there's a lot of strength. There's more strengths than there are weaks to that game. And I wish it was just a bit longer, because it's a pretty short game.
While we're talking about just pure horror games, Phasmophobia. It's such a phenomenon. There's so many people playing that game. I would say it might. Is it? I wouldn't say it's as famous as Dead by Daylight, but it's getting close.
It's definitely getting close, but Phasmophobia definitely got more popular when it came to consoles, because it was originally a PC only game. And so when it came to consoles, it definitely boosted the game's popularity. And then playing that in PSVR 2 is so scary. And then I love playing with people who aren't in VR, because there's so much more you can do in VR than you can just normally. After you die, you can as a ghost you can throw objects, but in VR you can just carry around objects, and so whenever I'm dead, I just grab something and then be like, "What's up? I'm still here."
Another thing that boosted Phasmophobia's popularity is whenever it came out to TikTok and other streaming services like that, because just people saw how fun and the game was, especially whenever some people would bait the ghost around the table all the time,
Yeah.
playing the music, bobbing their heads up.
Yeah,
and down.
there's a. I feel like the memes like definitely make it seem more funny, and so it makes people want to play it more, and then they actually play it, and it's a horrifying game.
The thing about it is, it's like with video games, there's certain limitations. Generally, in the AI department, you
Yeah.
have a lot of really stupid AI, and then you can get them trapped on like a wall or something,
Yeah.
or like on a tree, and then they're just like kind of like cooked, like they can't actually do anything, and you've just won the game.
Yeah.
It kind of that's one bad thing about horror games is since there's so many possibilities, there's gonna be some possibilities that's just an exploit.
Yeah. Then there's gonna be a lot of things that horror games try to do, but they can't, or they don't have the budget, but they still try to do it, so it's not great.
I'm reminded of the Slender Man game from so many years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
That game was limited.
But it was still good.
It was. I mean, it brought the horror aspect really. Into
Yeah,
it,
it really brought like, I don't know what they're called, like, creepy something.
creepypasta.
Yeah.
That art style. Sorry.
Oh, continue.
It reminds me a lot of mouthwashing.
Oh, mouthwatching is such a good game though. Like, a friend like invited me over and just sat me down and made me play it, and I didn't know what to expect, but it was genuinely such a really good game. And it's like one of those like low budget, barely any budget video games that have grown in popularity and were genuinely really, excuse me, that was genuinely really good, and some of the transitions in those games was fantastic. But I think that's gonna do it for this episode. So I've been Logan Loya,
I've been Zack Lason.
And I've been Ayden Williams.
and you've been listening to Terror Talk.